How you doing, guys? Been kind of taking a slight break from the YouTube thing for the last few weeks. Got my brains all frazzled in recent weeks. Been working a whole lot of hours. I think it was sometime in January. We lost a lot of people, so we've been primarily working with a skeleton crew. Has anybody ever noticed when you're working with a skeleton crew, although you may be working harder, the stress level is very low? You do what you have to do. For the most part, you're brain dead half the time because you're working those hours, but you do the job and get it done. Sometime within about a month ago, somebody got the bright idea of hiring help. Sometimes you can find the wrong people and put them in the wrong situation, which increases the stress level and does damage to the job performance that you once had. They had brought in this older woman to do the job that frankly she was not qualified to do. Now, I'm in the food industry, been in and out of it for many, many years now. When she first came in, I told her there are 3 things you're going to need to succeed at this job. You're going to need speed, coordination, and quality. She had none of the above. I figured her first day working with me, she was just very nervous because she was afraid to touch anything while I was there. So I told my other coworker, I says, maybe she'll be better if nobody's watching over her. This wasn't the case. She was terrible whether we were there or we weren't, and we were starting to lose customers as a result of it. Well, they decided maybe we should try her someplace else. Now, for the most part, everybody's got their strong qualities and they have their weak points. The trick is to find somebody's strong points and put them where they're best needed. They decided to put her on the cash register. She was worse there than she was in the kitchen. Now, this girl panics over the least little things. When they put her on the register, she went into panic mode, threw her hands up in the air, and walked off the job. I came into work a few hours later and heard this. Now, my thing is, if somebody walks off the job, they're done. Well, no, they were not willing to let her go as yet. She was scheduled to come in the next day and work the register again. I got to work. It was about 10 or 11 o'clock I got there. And I walked in and she was nowhere in sight. I'm like, what happened? Well, they told me what happened. Apparently, one of the night people had called out and she was afraid she was going to be on the register all night. Now, she was panic-stricken. She did not want to work the register. Apparently, she collapsed on the floor and feigned some sort of seizure. Now, one of my coworkers is extremely animated. She was trying to not only explain to me what happened, but demonstrated it.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Don't take my Italian card. I have to go in the register.
And I'm like, you are kidding me. And one of my other coworkers, she was having heart trouble and her heart was speeding up and she just was going into a seizure. We were going to call 911. And I said, she had a panic attack. And I said, she walked off again? Well, yeah, we sent her home. Well, I was thinking we are never going to see her again, which was almost the case. Well, she called in sick for the next 2 days. It was decided that she was going to be let go. She just served no purpose anywhere. She was more of a liability than anything. So it was decided to let her go. The problem was no one wanted to do it. So it was left on me to do it. Okay. It's a necessary evil at times. Sometimes you have to do it. So she came into work the other day and I says, hold on, before you clock in, I want to talk to you. And she says, what's the matter? I says, I'm going to finish out the shift. Why don't you just go home? And she says, why? I says, in all honesty, you're not cut out for this. And she says, what are you saying? This job just isn't for you. And again, she says, I don't understand. I says, we're letting you go. And she says, why? I'm doing better. And I'm like, better than what? I says, you're not cut out for this at all. And she's like, you don't like me. And I says, like or dislike has nothing to do with it. You cannot perform the job. Whether it's in the kitchen or on the register, you cannot perform it. And she says, I'm getting better. Better than what? And I finally said to her, I said, look, let's not make a big deal of this. The decision has already been made. Just go home. And she says, well, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I don't know, build jet engines. And she says, I can't build jet engines. And I'm like, you can't cook either. Well, she looked at me shocked. She started walking away and turned and looked at me again like she was going to start talking. And at this point, I don't like to waste time with words, so I just waved her on. She turned around and walked away. I know many employers that would have fed off of this. They love to watch people grovel. Me, I don't like to see people grovel. When a decision's been made to terminate somebody, there's nothing you can do to save that job. Just leave, go somewhere else, find something that you're more qualified to do. But there was just no point in her trying to save that job when there was nothing to save. How many employers I've watched made people grovel, beg for their job, beg, only to terminate them anyways. Just leave. This is something that I have noticed over the years at the Kingdom Halls. When you have elders who have this false power over people, especially when it comes to the judicial hearings, that will make somebody beg, and they've pretty much already decided whether you're going to be disfellowshipped or not. Now, I only attended 2 judicial hearings. Now, much like you go into work, you know you're going to be terminated. The same thing applies to judicial hearings. You know you're going to be disfellowshipped. Now, when I went to both my judicial hearings, the thought of being disfellowshipped never entered my mind because I knew it wasn't going to happen. I knew I was going to get a slap on the wrist of sorts, but I knew I wouldn't be DF'd. And I'll explain why after. That was some years ago, and I can't remember exactly when I started finding out about the organization. And I was really getting bummed out about it because I had put in a lot of time with it for over the previous few years, and I was really bummed out about it. I'm like, wow, all this wasn't a complete lie. Now I was having a few personal problems on the outside as well. So one night I'm walking down the street, lit up a smoke, and I'm smoking as I'm walking, and JW happened to drive by and caught me. Well, obviously that Sunday at the Kingdom Hall, a judicial committee was formed. Now, I went into that hearing knowing full well that, no, I'm not going to be disfellowshipped. I knew it. But I was just curious how far I could push it without getting disfellowshipped. So what I did was I threw something else into the fire. Now, at the time, I was spending a great deal of time over a lady friend's house. I was spending more time at her house than I was at mine. And I casually mentioned that. There was a few minutes of silence, but it kind of changed the direction of the hearing altogether. Still, the thought of being disfellowshipped never came up. Although I was slapped on the wrist and put on restrictions for the next 4 years, which was fine with me because I started fading anyways, nothing happened. Now, I was told, as far as the smoking thing, that Jehovah would take his Holy Spirit off the congregation if somebody was smoking. And deep down, I'm thinking about this. I says, okay, Jehovah is worried about smoking in the congregation when there's such a pedophile problem in the organization that nothing's being done about, but he won't pull his Holy Spirit off the congregation then? I thought it was a bunch of BS. Now, the second hearing came about, and I was finally pulled off restrictions when they realized that I was doing nothing about it. I had no intention of reaching out for privileges, so they call it. So they decided to pull me aside and said, well, you know, we think you've learned your lesson. We're going to raise the restrictions. Well, that lasted about 2 weeks until I was caught smoking again. This time there was a public reproof. I didn't go to the congregation much longer after that, but apparently I was caught smoking again by somebody driving by my place of employment. I got a little careless because at this point I didn't care. So I got a text message from one of the elders that we're going to need to meet with you this Saturday. Now, knowing what I knew, and I could no longer keep quiet about it, I knew if I attended this judicial hearing, this time I would have been DF'd, because I would not have been able to keep my mouth shut. And to silence me, they would have had to disfellowship me and swept me out of the way, so nobody would get the information from me. So I figured, if I take time off of work to go to this hearing, I'm going to be disfellowshipped. And I'm going to lose money because I won't be at work. If I don't go to the hearing, I'm going to be disfellowshipped anyway. So I figured, why go? I want out. So I didn't go. Now, the letter was delivered to my place of employment, and I could tell by the reaction of the elder that delivered the letter that I was DF'd. But I never opened the letter, and I'm kind of sorry I didn't hold on to it because I just dropped it into the trash unopened. But time told me that, yes, I was DF'd. And I am sure that somewhere in that letter was the option to appeal the decision. See, everybody who's disfellowshipped is given this option. Now, first of all, let me explain this. Now, we all know that judicial committees are kangaroo courts. So if they've decided long before the hearing that you're going to be disfellowshipped, and for the most part it is decided before the hearing, then why would you get other elders from another congregation to go through another kangaroo hearing to appeal the decision that's already been made? See, they are not going to combat the other elders in that congregation to save your ass. And by the small chance that they do, let's face it, you've already been mocked. You're going to be shunned anyways. My thing is, why appeal the decision that's already been made? You're wasting your time doing so, because if you've been disfellowshipped, it's going to remain that way. You're going to stay disfellowshipped. And if you remain in the congregation, they're just going to have you jumping through hoops for who knows how long. My thing is, turn a negative into a positive. If you want to remain one of Jehovah's Witnesses, just be prepared to be jumping through those hoops indefinitely, being made a total fool out of. They might as well put you in front of the congregation with a dunce cap on. Build your life on the outside. Take that as a positive and get out from this high control group. So would it be worth your effort to appeal a decision that's already been made? No, it's a waste of time. The reason they do this is to give you the feeling that you have options in the organization. You have none. You do not matter to these people. You have no choices. It's a one-sided coin. So if you're disfellowshipped, make a positive out of it. Build your life outside the organization. Trust me, when you get all this filth out of your head, you will live a much happier life. Anyways, guys, that's just all I wanted to mention. Hope you all have a good day. Feel free to leave your comments below, and I'll be talking to you soon.